That sounds sort of sad and funny, but you have the vision, you communicate it well, and you get people aligned. And when it comes to communicating, I'd like to address this to Kate, who is professional in that area. What does it mean to communicate your vision and your story into a brand that is compelling?
Thanks, Tarja. Yeah, I can pick that up. So, I mean, absolutely, it's really important that your brand and the position and the messaging that you use to talk about that they are aligned, not just aligned, but they're really true to the company's vision and the ambition of that company, and that they help to really make clear what your unique value proposition is to your audiences. And they must, of course, be clearly communicated for your audiences and stakeholders to buy into. But your brand is a lot more than just these elements. It's for your customers and other stakeholders. It's not just the logo, the strapline, the vision, the messaging. It's not just the ads, the website, and the things that you as a company can create and control. It's actually that total perception that the audiences form about your company through all the different experiences and interactions that they have with your brand on an everyday basis. That might come from when they're dealing with your sales team, when they're actually using your products or services, when they're reading your social posts, or maybe talking about your organization with their friends and family or colleagues. So it's really important that you continue working hard to ensure that your culture and all of the stakeholders' touch points with your brand are fully aligned with that initial brand vision, to ensure that you've got really lasting credibility and customer belief in your offering. And that's really crucial to the success in the long term.
Um, I would take one word out of that, Kate, what you said. I like that brand is more than the logo and the ads. I would say is, maybe you correct me, it's about transporting your culture to the ads and making your company and your product lovable to your customers, isn't it that?
Yeah, definitely. Getting to the essence of what it is to be that brand and what that brand means. And yeah, and if you can get that the culture is a key part of that, I totally agree.
Marie, do you want to share some of your experience on that
Yeah,
specific point?
yeah, definitely. Yeah, this is of course one of the biggest things for a startup is that you are a startup because you don't have anything. You start from scratch and you have to build also your brand from scratch. And I think normally as founders, we have a very clear vision and mission, what we want to achieve with this company. There is a good reason why we actually want to do this business, whatever the business is. And we are the ones who are trying to convey that to everyone first, that okay, there is this clear story and this is what we want to do, and it's all very beautiful and it's all very messy because we are normally not professionals when it comes to communication and branding as such. So of course we need lots of help with the professionals. We can work together to make it clear. What happened to us, and I want to be very honest, was that we are a real impact company. And there was a time when we were raising money, the world was in a bad place, and there were lots of problems, and especially when it came to investments, that they were kind of not easy to get. So we started to work on our story, and we were trying really, really hard to understand, there are these VCs out there. So how do we communicate so that they really understand what we do? And we always have a feeling that they don't really understand like what Originbauschen is all about. And we actually took a bit of a wrong direction there at one point, that we started to listen to these VCs in a way that we thought that, okay, this is what they are conveying as a message, and this is how we have to tweak the story a bit so that we will get the message through. And there was a point when we realized that when we are looking at our vision and mission of the brand and what was the initial the burning flame while we are doing this was getting like smaller and smaller. And this was when we said that, oh my God, our brand cannot be compromised on this thing, that if there is a difficulty out there, on the contrary, we should put more, stuff to this kind of a fire, that we can make even a bigger fire out from this thing, and not the other way around, that we start to question that, okay, maybe this brand is not like, maybe there is something wrong with this thing. And that was one of the biggest learnings, and I will never do that again. so that's something that showed us very clearly that if you don't have internally, first of all, a very strong brand and culture, this can happen to you. And that's something that we are working on a lot now as a team to make sure that, you know, we are all tattooed with this Origin by Ocean brand and mission and vision, and everyone can talk about it. And everyone, not just that they have to remember that by heart, but really understanding what that means to them. And I think that's the thing that why we have to discuss internally so much about the mission and vision and the brand and the culture, is that we all have to find our place there, and not that the CEO and the founder is there that, oh my God, you know, this is like a cult and join my cult. But it's like, I have to find, you know, this is something that I can, you know, I can take that, and this is my life, and this is how I live, and this is my personality. It fits here very nicely. So there needs to be this resonance thing as well.
Thank you, Mary. That's I think I was using "be brave in your vision and culture" because I had your story in mind, of course, when we prepared that webinar. But I think you illustrated that pretty well. I hope it resonates for the audience as well. Before we move to the next pitfall that we were suggesting to speak about, don't forget, if you have questions, the Q&A is after that. And maybe we move now or anybody wants to add something to what was just said. That doesn't look like we have a couple of minutes still, so doesn't look like that. So the third root cause for failure that we had listed is an incomplete skill set within the core management team. And probably in the audience, some of you and some of us have worked in large corporations, and we have already experienced the impact of diversity, of cultures, of personalities, of competencies, of working ways, and how it is really an unbeatable asset to be successful. And I don't think I need really to mention the counter examples of major failures like Kodak or Nokia, where the lack of diversity in the mindsets had an enormous influence on their crash. But now I'm turning back to Wynand. And I'm going to ask the next question. When you have just created your business and you can only afford a small organization, how do you achieve that actually to have the necessary diversity of skills? Is it about partnership? How do you see that?
So yes, Christoph, typically a company has to prove itself before it can acquire sufficient funding to scale and to expand its management and its operational team to cover all of those departments that's needed by a successful business. At the same time, investors look to the competencies of that core management team when they decide whether or not to invest. Those core team members, they have the skills to create the product and the idea. That's why they started the business, but it's quite rare that they also have the skills to create a complete and successful business based on that product or idea. So this normally leaves them with only two options. Either they have to hire the experts with the required skills, or they have to train the existing team members to fill those gaps. But neither option is really ideal. So the best experts for the task tend to be very expensive. And at the same time, they may also not be a very good match for the company culture. And we all know how important that culture is. And during the early stages of company development, it is also possible that you don't need all of those skills all of the time. The alternative, which is training the existing team, we know that that is not going to result in a world-class outcome. At best, you will fill some of those gaps. The other thing it will do is it will distract those team members from the things that they are really good at. And those strengths, whether that be innovation, product development, industry knowledge, that's actually what makes the company worth building in the first place. So the last thing you want to do is distract them from that. So what we've seen is a third option, which is often overlooked because everybody tries to be self-sufficient. And that option is looking for a partnership, exactly as you suggested. You're looking for a partner who shares your vision and who wants you to succeed and who can complement your existing team by adding their skill set and their network of experts to your own. It's I saw recently on LinkedIn a few people sharing the information that it is said that those at the bottom compete with each other while those at the top collaborate. And I think for too long we imagined that we need to play by those rules. And we can see the truth of this even at a small scale. When we and another company work together for the benefit of both organizations, it is possible to structure the financial relationships in a way that doesn't jeopardize either party, that's to both parties' benefit. And the result of this is that clients look at this more complete offering that you bring. They find it easier to trust you. Investors look at this combined management team and they find it easier to invest. And everybody gets to play to their strengths. Maria, I don't know if any of this resonates with you or if there's anything you would like to add at this point.
Oh yeah, you become a master of disaster. That's how we call it. That you try to handle everything yourself, and sometimes I guess it works and sometimes it doesn't. But that's really, really important, is to have diversity in many ways within, not just in the management team, but I think in a team in general. And I think you have to be really, really honest to yourself that when you start a company, like, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? And it's a beautiful thing that we can all learn, yes, but I think we don't really have time to wait for someone to learn something. And I think it's wise to understand that if you are good at whatever the sector is and you enjoy it, normally the outcome is very, very good. And I think that one of the things what we were facing is also a bit of a related to the risk, that once you get money in and you start to build your team, I think you touched a very important point, is that there are different phases within the company that you might need a certain skill only for a certain period of time, and then you realize that, okay, actually once we've done that, we don't necessarily need this skill anymore. And that's why the partnerships are very important. I'm so happy that we can have partners to join this journey and help us to fill these gaps that we clearly have. And then I have to say that I might disagree a bit on this organic growth thinking of the team, because I think as a startup, when you start to build a team, so normally you have, like in our case, so we are a tech company, so we have very scientific orientated core team, and they've been very crucial, important part of Origin by Oceans. I don't want to call it a history because it's still present, but they have really built this company together with all of us. We all done it together. And somehow I see that I also want to give a message to our current team that, you started when things were complicated. We didn't have a shit, like we didn't have anything. And they had to tolerate this situation of trying to find, solutions to do things. And I see the potential, but that's a lot of work from the leadership, is that you have to go through the discussions with them to understand the potential of the organic growth. And then you have to start building the team already today and look at 5 to 10 years ahead and start mapping the potential of your organic growth versus then, of course, the growth which comes from external sources, either hiring new people or having partners. But I think that for me personally, that's a big it's a big value, and I think we should all do that and take the time to really learn from that as well. And I think it's mixture of two that you can really nicely blend.
Thank you, Maria, and I appreciate the disagreement, which actually just shows again how we get benefit from having the different viewpoints in the room working towards the same goal.
Yeah, completely.
I would tend to, it wasn't planned, but I would tend to ask Kate also if she wants to comment on that, because I know you have also experience in working with burgeoning, I don't know if you say that, but creative environments and how to deal with this lack of competencies or lack of diversity.
Yeah, absolutely. I think forming partnerships with people that are aligned with you can be extremely valuable. And it's I can think of a number of different occasions where either our own organization or clients or people that we've worked with have also found it to be a really, really helpful way forward. It's not only those competencies that you can gain from doing it, but also having other viewpoints, other experienced brains to talk about, other, basically people like sounding boards. You can share ideas, and it's much more than just the competencies that they bring in. It's about having that extra support within your network, I think, can be really, really helpful.
Yeah, I heard a couple of. We should not be afraid about the conflict. We should be afraid of not knowing how to solve them. And I think that's all about that in diversity. So we have to be aware that somebody will say, "No, I don't see it that way." Now do we move on with that? Anybody else who wants to comment on that part?
Well, I could just add one thing here. It's when you have the clear vision and alignment, it's safer to build partnerships too. It's easier to pick the ones that are aligned with you. It's you save yourself from future big conflicts when you realize one day that, oh, we are not even going to the same direction. Second thing is the company culture. That is crucial. And it cannot be built on majorities, cultural backgrounds, or actually on anything that you take for granted. It needs to be built from scratch and taking into consideration different cultural backgrounds and all the diversity that you have in your team. But if you get those things right, I think you are invincible at the end of the day. Of course, you'll have obstacles, you'll have rocks on the road, but you have a team that knows what to do with them anywhere in the world. So that's what I wanted to add.
Thanks, Daria. Anybody else wants to say something before we move on? No. So then we're coming slowly to the Q&A session. I still have a couple of questions to you, Daria. So maybe before we go for a question, do you want to summarize what are the key takeaways of this session? And the second question would be, how can Moxword help? What are the tips that we want to, or you want to give to the audience to help them to keep on their successful path or to go back on track on success?
Yeah, sure. I think the first question, the key takeaways from this session, obviously be bold with your vision, have one and defend it, invest in it. It's the most valuable. It's one of the most valuable assets you have. And around that, you gather your team, your business culture, and your success. And then be truly customer-centric. Think of rather like the benefits there, instead of listing the features, what we do, understand your customer. What are the pain points and how you can create value to them instead of being a cost. And then diversity. I can't agree more about this diversity aspect of an efficient team. We live in an ever-changing world. Like the world changes so fast. And if we are, even if we are not looking at going international on international markets, I'd still say that we benefit from different viewpoints, different ways of thinking, different experiences. And we learn from that ourselves. And especially if you are looking at going to global market, it's crucial. It's otherwise working in a bubble, making decisions in a bubble will not take you far. It gets really, really hard. So I say when you think about going international, the first step is to change your own mindset and start becoming international in your own head. And it all starts from there. So I guess this would be the main three things we discussed today.
And the second question, what are the tips or tricks that you want to give?
Well. Or how Moxword can help. We don't treat treat symptoms, as we've said before, lack of finances and different reasons what normally are listed as reasons to fail, we consider them as symptoms of something that it lies much deeper. So how we can help is to have a strategic diagnostic session with you and dive and find out what those our underlying root causes are, and then only we can say how we can possibly help, or if we can take you to someone else who can have solutions to those root causes. So definitely we're happy to help, and with this cost-free 1 hour diagnostic session would be a good start for that.
When you mean a diagnostic session, can you tell us a bit more how it works? Or you or Steve, how it's
yeah, I think
how
Steve,
it would work?
you could enlighten this part a little bit more.
Yeah, I can summarize it like we are going to squeeze you like a lemon. It sounds more painful than it is actually. But at the end, what we do is trying to get an understanding of your current situation by structuring a discussion, a diagnostic, in really kind of finding at the end out kind of the key milestones that could help you to solve that problem. Yeah. I mean, I'm just throwing the ball further to Mari because Mari has experienced it. So how did it feel to get squeezed like a lemon?
Oh, it was a good squeeze. We all loved it. No, but it was really, really good. And that was one of the things I have discussed with Steve. Is kind of an amazing thing that you tend to think that you know something. There is a certain level of information and certain level of understanding. But with this squeezing method, you actually do a bit more deep dive all the time. So you start to understand really the root causes of being that a problem or being that an opportunity. And I think that's something that we learn a lot when we did this value prop exercise and the whole workshop thing. It was invaluable for us to really understand the potential we have as a company, and also potential we bring with the whole package, what Tarja was saying, and we have the brand, we have the culture, we have the vision and mission, and they all kind of, they're all in this one bowl of the offering that we give to our customers. So we don't have to take sections out and say, okay, I give this to you and I give this to you, but it's more like, this is what we are and this is what we have to be very proud of. And there is a clear reason why everyone wants to be our customer, and now we really know it ourselves as well. So I can only recommend that everyone should go through this. And most of the time when you get older, you start to think that, yeah, I'm being in the industry, so I understand how to do this thing, but unfortunately you don't. So I think it's a good mindset to have, that we are here to learn more, and we can always learn more, and we can always improve. And I think that's the fascinating part here, is that we have this opportunity to do so.
Yeah, it's good. Thank you for that testimony, Mary. I would love my kids. I've heard that they are here to learn more and more and again and further until the end of their life. So thank you again. If you wish to have your diagnostic call, please let us know in the chat. It's a one-to-one, so we'll see that. We'll connect back to you and set it up soon. And well, we are about on time to start the Q&A session. So let's see what we have as a questions or ask questions. I see there's the first one. So let me check that. It's about cross-functional teams. Can you create I'm reading that. Can you create cross-functional teams where members with complementary competencies can collaborate to achieve common goals, especially for incorporating new material into final products? Is it an effective approach? I'm not sure to whom to address that. Steve, maybe?
Yeah, that reminds me of many exercises I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, so trying to answer, of course, I would have about 5 other questions before answering in detail. So happy to take that separately as well. But I think overall, having a cross-functional team is already a good start. because you're bringing already different perspectives. Yeah, so that is essential from my point of view. The complementary aspect of it is important as well, though I would recommend that there is a little bit of overlapping so that you ensure that they're talking the same language as well. Yeah, so because I see often, just taking the example of sales and marketing people, they talk about the same thing, but they don't understand each other. So this is why are you smiling, Christian? But what you said is indeed the common goals. So what we talked also earlier as being one of the pitfalls or one of the solutions, if you want, is having that common vision, that common culture is helping, and of course translating that then in common goals so that everybody understands what it means for themselves is a key essential part of it. And for whatever, I'm not sure what you mean with new material into the final product, but in any technology or any businesses, this is essential. So I would say, yes, it is a good idea. And I would say, happy to deep dive in that discussion, yeah, to hear more about where your challenges lie exactly in that perspective. I hope that answered that question.
Another question, maybe. You showed us many pitfalls and solutions. Which one should we tackle first? Who wants to take the question? You, Tarja, you want to start?
Yeah, I can start. It depends what you have. I think not all the companies, or not many companies have all of them. It's like, I think the first one to tackle is to run a proper diagnostics of root causes. And only then we can see what are where the priorities lie, what we should tackle first. And it depends on so many things. It depends on your common, like what resources you may have to solve things. Maybe we need to take them step by step, but we need to look there. What is the most crucial thing for you to get to the next stage? And then continue from there. But without knowing more, I wouldn't really answer this. Of course, I'd love to say the vision, but it depends.
So if we ask to Stevie, we'll have a different start point.
I was going to say I disagree in that one. But of course, no, I agree while I disagree. So I agree with Tarja in the fact that actually there is no one size fits all in it. Yeah, so all of the elements are important in a sense, but you need to understand where is your biggest challenge or where is the biggest impact you can generate with the different topics. Because it might be you have a vision that is not perfect, but it's still working, but then your way of selling is completely a mess. Yeah, you don't have the right competencies or you don't have the proper communication, yeah, so that the value proposition is not clear, or even the commercial strategy is not clear. So that could be an issue. But just to turn it around in favor of Tarja, saying it could be that the commercial part is fully aligned and then the vision is not working, for instance.
I was joking, Steve.
Yeah, I know.
Discussion.
And so, but it could be the culture as well. The thing that we see often is obviously all of that is interlinked. So we see kind of a repetition of these pitfalls. I mean, the little things that are not working in one angle are present in the others. So the systematic aspect of it is essential as well. So we need to look at, in a sense, to really prioritize it, to understand, okay, where's the biggest impact, and really where is it a systematical problem kind of, or is it really just individual topics that need to be covered? And there I would say, let's have just a free diagnostic call and then we find out, because we typically, in that 45 to 1 hour, we quite quickly grasp where the challenges are.
Okay. I hope the question was answered correctly. Interesting question. Out of the pitfalls that we have listed, where do we see based on our experience most of the challenges? So maybe a question for you, Mary. Where is most of the challenge? Is it in maintaining the vision, being customer-centric, having the right diversity in the organization? Just to take the three we spoke about, maybe it's another one.
Yeah, it's a lot, but I think maybe what Steve was saying about having certain type of manners that we tend to have, they start to spread slowly. And I think that if you don't cut these at the right time and you realize that how you are doing certain things which are not in favor of the business and the company, if you don't recognize those, they will be kind of an element in all of these different pitfalls. And then we know that, of course, the outcome can be very, very bad. So I think you have to realize that. I mean, I always say the word weakness. Of course, we shouldn't say that word anymore, but improvement area. But it's really a weakness, to be honest. So you have to understand these weaknesses of your organization, and normally, especially if you are CEO and in a leadership position of yourself as well, that's how you are doing certain things. It's not pretty, but it's something that you just have to do. And then you start to see that how these certain things start to accumulate or have already accumulated into different fields. And of course, in a startup, this question about, it's very difficult to get finance. Of course, it's difficult to get finance. Otherwise, everyone could have a startup and a company, an idea. And I think that's not that's not even a problem. But there are a lot of things why you don't get the finance. And these are the things that you have to start deep diving to understand that why you are in this situation as well. But they are all interlinked, highly interlinked normally, if you look at the cases, especially the startups. And they, once you start to analyze them, they are fairly easily spotted as well.
Anybody else from you who want to add something on that question?
Perhaps just it may sound overused, but just the saying that it's very hard to read the label from inside the bottle. We have discovered this for ourselves, and we've seen it with some of our clients, that they may have all the information and they may have all the insights, but they are immersed in their own world. And it's very hard to find that different perspective when you are so immersed in your own world. And therefore, often an external expert who just keeps asking those pointed questions helps you to get to those insights and that knowledge that you had all along but couldn't access.
Interesting. Next question. How about scaling up and challenges thereof? Any tips and learnings regarding the big steps or the multiple steps from startup to scale up? Steve?
Yeah, that's indeed an interesting question. And actually, all the things that we mentioned today applies to scale-ups because they are amplified when you are getting to the scale-up. So that's one thing. And then in tech companies, what I have seen typically is that the scale-up is so much focused on the technology. So how to build a bigger plant, how to make a pilot, how to have new plants or new regions and everything, that all the rest, so all the things we mentioned, like building up the competencies, ensuring that the culture is coming across to everybody and the vision, is forgotten in many places. Because if you think about it, in the startup, you might have really this kind of 2 to 3 founders where the idea is kind of clear. Even there, we could challenge it because we have seen it many times talking to those founders. You ask 3 people, you get 5 answers. So you need to ensure that the culture, the vision, and also even the sales approach is kept along, and transferred to the next generation that was not in the founding group, because they have not had part of that initial idea and way of thinking. So you need to ensure a proper onboarding, in a sense, to that community. So have a clear plan how you build it, because also, I mean, not having the right vision, not the right culture might bring you some people into the organization that you don't want to have, because they might be simply interested because they are looking just for a job, but they are not thinking about the impact behind the vision that you have. And that's essential, because otherwise you are killing the culture sooner than later, actually. But maybe Tarja, you can build on that, I'm sure.
I have, yeah, one thing comes to my mind from conversations with investors in different continents, and they tend to say the same thing. They are looking for consistency. And when I asked what does it mean, consistency, it's every element of your business should be at the same level than your product. And that doesn't happen often. The product has been taken, and I think this applies to Finland especially, that we keep building the product and developing the product and polishing the product until there is no market left anymore because, well, the Swedes have taken it or some others. So sooner we should start with paying attention to the other half, which is the commercial side and storytelling and putting effort on the fact that people actually understand what you are doing. And I hear that a lot. South Africa, there is a company that helps in Western European companies, tech companies to African markets. And they said with exact these words, there seems to be a lot of things coming from Finland, but nobody really understands what they're doing. And when I hear this over and over again, that's where we want to help and like at least prompt these companies to take marketing agencies or branding agencies, like partner up with business professionals so that you get an international ones. Don't take the one from the neighbor. It's easy, I know. Somebody told me that from Oulu that, oh, why would we hire anybody from Manchester, for instance, when the neighbor can drop in anytime to drink a cup of coffee with us? Well, fine if you're staying in Oulu, but these guys are looking to go global. And yeah, it's difficult to think of anything to say to that except don't. So yeah, that's what I say is like consistency in everything you do. Keep the quality in on every part of your business solid. And actually one investor said, better to do shit all the time than one day shit and one day great. So be consistent.
Thanks, Tarja. I guess we have time for a last question, maybe. Maybe that one. How would a project typically work with Moxworld and their partners? Who wants to start with that one? Steve, Tarja, again?
Steve, do you want to do that?
Yeah, I can do that. So, yeah, we would typically start with squeezing the lemon, as said. So we would do that kind of diagnostic call to better understand, first of all, does it make sense at all from your problems, kind of your challenges? Can we see a solution? Is there anything? Because sometimes we had cases where it was just simply not, I mean, it was really a strong mindset discussion more than anything else. But typically we find ways of collaborating. So we would recommend to have that kind of first diagnostic. Then as a next step, typically what we do is the so-called break the bubble, where we do two half-days workshops where we squeeze you even further to go in details, because of course, after 1 hour, we learn kind of scratching the surface and understanding a bit of you, but then getting deeper. And then the second half of that workshop would be about really developing a roadmap towards your success. So identifying what are the key success factors and translating those into a roadmap so that you have a plan. And then if wanted, if we see that there is a collaboration and that we can help you, of course, and if it's wanted by them, we then continue and define the different steps of the projects and agree on a timeline. So that would be kind of the overall way of working. From the approach, we are very collaborative. So we are not kind of coming with the silver spoon and the wisdom, but we are really kind of extracting as much knowledge as yours, because you know the technology, yeah, you know your product, but we are trying to bring then all the other elements that are required most of the time, and depending, of course, on the needs. So some Some companies are have more challenges on the marketing side, more on the commercial side, others on the vision, others on the culture. So it depends really. And so it's not a one size fits all approach. So we don't have a blueprint in a sense, but we tailor it to every case. Tarja, did I miss something?
No, not really. I think that's pretty much what it is. Like we go to these calls with open mind. We developed this strategy call or diagnostic calls after loads and loads of sales calls that were spent in chit chat where, we both sort of introduce ourselves, and then at the end of the hour, we're just as stupid as before the call. So thought that we would do something something productive, and regardless of whether or not we continue working together, both parties have learned something, and all these findings that we have from this free call, they are free to use from you, like by you. So they no strings attached, and we truly hope that you can use them at least a little, that it helps. But of course, the aim is that we could work more together in the future. Or that's what we hope, obviously.
Maybe Thanks,
we could just.
Yeah, 30 seconds, Steve.
Yeah, I was going to throw the ball to Mari because she has lived it live, so she has experienced it quickly. So, how does it feel to work with us? Maybe let's ask that way.
Yeah, I have 5 seconds, so I will say it's great, and also the fact of what you said, I want to underline is really that it's tailor-made service, if you like. So it's not like you give a certain template and then we all have to fit in. So that's the beauty of it. Really, it really helps.
Excellent. I think we had 10 seconds.
I use the 10 seconds saying that I say that what it felt like working with Origin by Ocean, it was so much fun. So that's what it's called.
Okay, I'm going to close the session on these words from Tarja. I would like to thank you all for your participation and your contribution with questions. I hope you got answers to the question you had before joining us. And if you wish to contact us in future, you can do that still in the chat, or you can contact us through our website, moxworld.org, or you can contact any one of us